Hey folks, this is Matt Chat and this is my plywood canoe building adventure. It was supposed to be a cheap 2-week project, but instead it took a couple of months. I ended up building 2 canoes, built a canoe carrying dolly, a boat rack for my truck, and a hanging system for canoe storage. I made tons of mistakes and probably would have given up if it weren't for the money I had already spent. It became an amazing adventure, all for a canoe I wasn't sure I was going to use. Well, good morning. First day after stitching the canoe and putting a stick in to widen it up. But after reflection, I don't think it's wide enough. Let me show you why. Okay, so you can see the width right there. And if you take a look at the sides, you'll notice that they're almost straight up. They have the slightest bit of angle. Now in the design drawings, this canoe, the sides are supposed to be flared. Now the actual measurement for this size of canoe should be about 36 inches. And this stick is about 4 inches shorter than that. So I think I'm going to have to get longer. But there's another reason why I have to extend the sides of the canoe. Let me show you that. Take a look at the bottom of the canoe and look at the curve. And you can definitely see that the curve is going down towards the front. And that is not how this canoe is supposed to look. If you get it right, the front edges should just barely go up. And I haven't achieved that. And the only way to make that happen is to widen the middle of the canoe. So I'm going to make a new stick and widen up this canoe and see what we get. But before we do that, I've got a little bit of repair work to do. Well, not repair work in the stitching, but I have to add a few stitches in some places where the boat has a tendency to widen out a little bit because of the stress. I'm not sure if this video shows any different curve from before, but that's the best I can do. I cannot go any wider with that canoe. I did go wider than it was before. And I put a level underneath to see if I could, if the curve, I think that there's a visual effect happening here that makes it look like there's a bigger curve than there is. But as far as I can tell, the bottom looks fairly flat. It's not really curving up at the front and back ends, but I'm going to have to go with this. I can't change this. So off we go, and I'm going to start mixing up some epoxy. I've cleaned off the insides. I made a center stick. Let me show you that. There you are, my center stick. Now that comes from a 2x2 that I ripped down and sanded. Now, I don't think it's strong enough to stay there permanently, and looking at the shapes that should be in the center, what they call the center thwart, it's not the right shape. So I'm going to put that in as a temporary thwart, and later on I'm going to remove it and replace it with the proper thing. At this point I just wanted to have something that I could use to widen it to the proper appearance, I guess, or projection. Width. Anyways, it's done. So as I say, I've got everything cleaned out inside, dusted, and now I'm going to start mixing up some epoxy, and we're going to see what we can do with that stuff. can we fill in these cracks. So I'm back ready to do my epoxy. Now I watched a video in which the guy used these plastic spoons for doing getting the smooth curves on the epoxy. So that's what I'm going to try to use. I happen to have a box of them. I've cut some more of my trusty little cedar pieces, but this time I took care to cut a bunch of them with some really small ends to them so that they might fit in different circumstances. I've got my container to mix it, and I've got my milk bags that I'm going to use to pour it. I've watched a video where the guy used a Glad bag, you know, the freezer bags. It's about the same thickness, even this milk bags are thicker than that. He said they worked fine, but you just have to get on with it. No wasting time, because the stuff does heat up, and I guess there's a chance it will melt your plastic. And talking about that, I don't know if I've mentioned this before in the video, but I did a mix before, and I got this type of stuff here happen in my mix. The rest of it stayed liquid, but in one area it just hardened up like crazy, way faster than it should have. And this is rock hard, like crystal or something. So something you got to be careful. So I guess the lesson there is hurry up, don't waste your time with it. Anyways, I'm going to get on with it here, start mixing some stuff up and try my first little bit. So the mixing, I watched a video and they talk about it in it, and he says you got to mix it for at least 2 minutes. And I guess that makes a lot of sense, particularly with the long slow hardening phase. I'm not so worried about time, but the more you mix it, the better it's mixed, and you just don't want a pocket of that stuff that'll harden, and also you don't want some stuff that's just not going to harden at all. So you got to make sure that this stuff is properly mixed. One guy actually went to the point of having a timer, and he put it on when he mixed it together, and it would ding, and that would tell him to stop. That's a bit extreme, but I can see how, you know, you're getting sort of tired of this, and after a minute you'd say, well, you know, that's enough. I've done enough. I think it's properly mixed. So now I'm going to open this up. Got to be careful of that. Okay, and I am going to start putting some thickener into here. I'll continue mixing it with as I add the thickener. There you go. Getting there, but not thick enough. I don't want this runny at all. I want it to go into where I put it and to stay there. So it'll be my applying that'll make it fill the cracks, and not it seeping through, because if it seeps through, it will end up dripping onto the floor. There's just no question about it, and I don't want that. I want this stuff to stay where I applied. I don't waste any of it. None of it gets lost. So it's got to be the right consistency. Well, it's certainly starting to thicken up. I don't think I'm going to need much more to get it to where I want. But it's still dripping, drooping, dreepy. So, I don't want that. That's looking very good. Alright, next phase, let's get this into the milk bag. So again, I saw this in the video. The guy used a cup to hold the plastic bag in place. And I think that's a supremely good idea. So let's get this stuff in there. You can use the edge of the cup to clean off your spatula. And be thorough with your collection. Waste not, want not. suspect these milk bags are going to be one-time use. Alright. I think I've got this as clean as I can get it. Do one more clean. Oh, still got some more. Alright, so here we go. Squeeze all that stuff down onto the corner. My milk bag set up. Now I'm going to cut myself a hole. Hopefully not too big or not too small. Let's get at it. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to, there she goes, she's coming out. So it's a bit of a problem there. Okay. Ooh, I like that. You can get some good pressure in there. Early morning and the glue has dried. The boat is feeling solid. So I guess the process now is to remove the stitches. I've glued all of the sections all around, and logically once I've removed the stitches the boat should still hold together in exactly this position. So let's put it to the test and find out if it works. We go right in with the pliers. Snap it. I'm going to do a little bit of extra work just because actually I'm going to do it with pliers. I bought this set of tiny pliers. I'm a sucker for pliers, I guess. See, it's already loose there. Alright, so I come in with the... oh, that was easy. So that was very easy. Well, that's good. That's good. Let's go on and do the other ones. So I showed you the first stitch removal and that worked very well. And then I go on to do the second one and I have glued it over. And that is really difficult to deal with. So a lesson is, don't glue over the stitches. I was worried the glue wouldn't hold at the ends, and I was also worried about how to get the glue in there. There were all sorts of issues in my mind, but in the end what I did is I spooned it in there, a little glob at a time, and then using a spatula I tried to even out the glue as best as I could, making sure that it touched both sides. And it seems rock solid. Of course, I had to embed the stitches right into the glue in the ends, but I anticipate covering the front with some keel of some sort, some wood, and that's going to hide whatever stitch bits that are left. So it should be all right. But apart from that, the stitches are all removed on this boat, and it is holding together perfectly. I thought that when you had one that was glued in like this, it's pretty impossible to remove. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this one, but I have discovered that most of them have come out. And that's simply by applying a bit of leverage with the pliers after cutting it on the outside. It just breaks the wire in the glue and pulls it out. So let's see if I can do it with this one. Okay, so first we cut it. That. I'm going to pull that one away. Let me straighten this one out. And we cut it as close as we can. And we come in with the pliers and we apply a bit of leverage. This one didn't work. Instead of pulling out, the wire snapped. So then the only choice with this one is to cut that close and come back with a hammer and hammer the two little bits in. Through some total fluke, the container I chose to use to make my epoxy ends up being it doesn't stick to the epoxy. Now, very few things don't stick to the epoxy, so I'm telling you, this is one hell of a fluke. You hear this when I'm doing this, the cracking? It's because it's all coming off, and I can just reach in there, and I just can pull it off like that. Oops, sorry, let's show you there. Look at that. And there, glue's all gone. There, got the right tension. That's going to be it for this part of my canoe building adventures. I want to thank you for joining in, and I want to remind you not to forget to subscribe to my channel. Hopefully we'll find a lot of progress in the next episode. See you soon.